If you look at my sales numbers on COMC, you will notice I have been selling a lot more cards since November of 2023. This is almost entirely because of COMC's eBay live auctions. In this video, I'm going to explore if these numbers are deceiving me. Am I actually making money with COMC's eBay live auctions? I'm not quite sure if it's as clear-cut as this is showing me. Let's look into this. All right, so first, let's just explain what are COMC's eBay live auctions. In November, they opened up a new live auction platform on eBay where you could submit your cards to sell and they would sell in 15-second or 30-second live auctions, kind of like a whatnot sort of thing. So this has been going on since November and I have been selling a lot of cards. I wanted to look through the actual numbers, look at how many cards I've sold, how much I originally purchased those cards for, how much I've sold them for now, including taking out all the transaction fees and everything like that to see how much, if I'm actually making any money. All right, so let's start off looking at a few numbers to begin. First, I should mention I sold about 1,142 cards on COMC's live auction in November, December, and the first week of January. I know it's a little bit later than that, but it took me some time to kind of crunch all these numbers and to put this video together. But this is about 9 weeks of kind of experience with this platform. I would say that, you know, some of my more recent things that have come since this time, I'm starting to learn a little bit better and I'm making better choices on what to submit. But this is a good snapshot of my first 9 weeks with this experience and what might be if you guys went into this space. I would imagine that you would also have to go through a learning process yourself and probably maybe you'd make some of the same mistakes I made, although I am trying to make some videos to help you so that you don't make some of the same mistakes I made. Now, first of all, I should just mention that 1,142 cards sold on COMC's live auctions. That's a little bit of an estimate. It's a little bit hard to differentiate when a card sells on the live auction or if it sells through COMC's regular auctions on eBay. It's like 7-day auctions. And I have been submitting some to that as well because there's a special event that's been going on in December and January that is a no minimum bid auction event for the regular 7-day auctions. I'm going to make another video about that because I also sold quite a few cards through that and I want to kind of analyze that as well. That's just to say this is kind of an estimate. A lot of this is going to be an estimate, including on the purchase price section. A lot of these are cards that I sent in from off-platform, originally cards that I had bought in China and elsewhere, and then sent into the COMC platform. I didn't want to, with 1,142 cards, I didn't want to go through and put in the exact price I had put on all of those. I don't think my estimates are super far off, but there might be some that are off here and there. If it was a larger card, then I did go look at the records and put a specific number in there. All right, with all that being said, let's dig into the numbers. Okay, so I sold a total of 1,142 cards via COMC's eBay live auctions during these 9 weeks. I sold these cards for a total amount of $7,003.31. Now, this is before the fees, before me calculating out how much I spent on these cards originally, but that's the number we're working from, the raw number we're working from. Now, that number sounds like a nice number for 9 weeks. It sounds like, whoa, you have a salary here, but I think you're going to see once I take out the costs that it's nothing like that. Now, among these, there are definitely some massive wins, and there's some really big losses as well, and some of these are really, really wild. So I want to share a few of the really weird ones for you here. Now, the numbers I'm going to share, I don't include the various fees, but they're just going to give you a sense of some of the weirdness that can happen in COMC live auctions when people don't have time to look up the previous sales on eBay because it's a 15-second auction. So they kind of have to guess. And if they don't know how much a card is valued, they're going to just guess. And some people guess wrong. So here's a few that we're going to look at. This is the 1996-97 Skybox Premium Kobe Bryant rookie. Really cool looking card. I bought this one on COMC as a buy it now for $10.40, and it sold on COMC live auctions for $50.99. This is in a PSA 9. Now, this one actually I bought for a total of $41 because I actually bought this raw and then I submitted it to grading through COMC's grading submission platform, which is a $24 cost. So the total I have into this card is $41, including the $17 I bought it for, the $24 for the grading fee. But then this one sold for $137 for a nearly $100 profit, which is amazing. This one here is the 96-97 Upper Deck Fast Break Connections Michael Jordan. I bought this one also as a COMC buy it now for $12.80 and sold it for $43.24. This one is weird. This is a 2019 Fleer Haynes Michael Jordan red foil card I bought for $1.80 and sold it for $36.99. This one is a $98.99 Upper Deck Intensity Michael Jordan I bought for $12, sold for $44.99. This one here is a 21-22 Panini Noir Rookies Association Edition numbered out of 99 of Jalen Green, which I bought for $6 and sold for $51.99. You can see these are crazy. This one is the 21-22 Court Kings Acetate Rookies Evan Mobley, which I bought for $4 and sold for $26.99. Now, as I go through these, I'm going to mention a bunch of these and I'm going to talk through what this means. This one is the 21-22 Court Kings Rookies 1 Cade Cunningham. I bought for $2, sold for $23.99. This is the 2021 Select Concourse Silver Prism of Tyrese Halliburton, which I bought for $4, sold for $25.99. This is the 2007-8 Fleer Kevin Durant rookie, which I bought for $10 and sold for $53.99. This is the Fleer Metal Allen Iverson rookie from 96-97, which I bought for $1.59 and sold for $21.99. This here is the 1969-70 Topps Connie Deerking rookie. I don't actually know if that's how you pronounce his name. I bought it for just $1, sold it for $30.99. And then some other sports. This is In the Game Sidney Crosby Series Gold rookie, which I bought for $3 and sold for $24.99. And then here's a soccer. This is 2021 Topps Chrome X Steve Aoki Neon Lasers of Erling Haaland, which I bought for $5 and sold for $23.99. And then here's a football one. This is the 2020 Chronicles Gridiron Kings Red, numbered out of 199, a rookie of Justin Jefferson, which I bought for $3 and sold for $26.99. And here is a 2020 Donruss Elite Deck of Christian McCaffrey, which I bought for $2 and sold for $20.99. And then some baseball. This is the 2023 Topps Big League 8-Bit Ballers of Shohei Ohtani, which I bought for $1.53 and sold for $21.99. And here we have the 1989 Donruss Ken Griffey Jr. rated rookie, which I bought for $3.15 and sold for $25.99. So as you can see, there are some crazy things in here. There were plenty of crazy ones that were really unexpected, and there was plenty of others that were really fell through the cracks and really did terribly. It was really all over the place. And sometimes the same card would sell it with such a different price at a different time. Like that last one, the 1989 Donruss Ken Griffey Jr. rookie that I mentioned that sold for $25.99. At another COMC live auction event just after that, 2 weeks later, this one only sold for 99 cents. So there was only one bidder. They bid, nobody else bid. They got it for 99 cents. So this is an example. It can be extremely hit or miss. That a bunch of these cards I actually sold more than once. That 8-Bit Ballers card of Shohei Ohtani, I've actually sold that one 5 times now. The first time it sold for $21.99. Each time after that, I made a few bucks. And then the most recent one, I actually lost money on it. So it's really interesting. It just depends on who happens to be in the live stream at the time. That's why I don't necessarily recommend this as an actual approach. There are possibilities if you're willing to commit yourself to learn what people seem to want to buy. But at the same time, it's really hard to rely on this because it's all a little all over the place. There are a ton more smaller losses. In fact, of the 1,142 cards I sold during this period of time, only 480 of them made profit after the fees were included, and 660 of them lost money if you calculate in the fees. And actually, of those 660 that lost profit, 324 of them only sold for 99 cents, meaning that there was just one bidder and they got it for that minimum price. And there was quite a few others, and I don't even have a way to calculate this because the system simply doesn't keep track of this. There's a bunch of others I submitted that actually weren't sold at all, and they just came back to me, and I just lost my original submission fee. So it's really impossible for me to calculate that in. Unfortunately, it's happened quite a bit. I would say out of every submission batch that I submit, there's at least a few that come back completely unsold. Sometimes it's oh yeah, I shouldn't have sold that one. I was experimenting with something and I shouldn't have really done it. I've stopped experimenting with those kind of cards now, by the way. And some of them I'm not surprised. Others I'm well, how come nobody bid on that card? Sometimes it's very surprising. So I have lost out on hundreds of dollars of cards that I sent to submit. They didn't sell and they're back with me again. And I just spent that money, $1.50 or $2 for no reason at all. That's happened more times than I care to admit. But so this is, again, just to give you a sense, this is extremely hit or miss. So if you want to go into this space, you do have to do a certain quantity so you can learn what's going to work. But again, anything you learn is not consistent because the people in the streams are not consistent. So you never know what you're going to expect. I'm never going to submit a high-end card to this. Even a really high-end card realistically has a possible chance of selling for 99 cents if the stream isn't at the right time, or if the card is not presented well by the auctioneer, or if it's kind of hidden in the middle of a bunch of junk surrounding it during the auction, or if the auction goes really late and there's very few people on by the time it's over, or if it's too early. I mean, there's so many different factors that could come into place that a really high-end card could realistically fall through the cracks. So I am never going to sell a card that's really quite valuable in this space. Not worth it at all. The other thing I've learned is I've submitted so many cards and I'm constantly looking for patterns, and I have found certain things that I think are patterns, certain cards that seem to do well, certain players, certain kind of shiny cards, but even the patterns I'm finding are quite inconsistent. And that's why I say, if you really want to try experimenting with this, you kind of have to do a certain quantity, because, I could submit the exact same card to 4 different auctions. I will never submit 4 of the same card to one auction, because the first one might do well and the next 3 will do bad, but I might submit them to 4 different auctions, and 1 or 2 of them might pop off and do amazing, and 1 or 2 of them might end up going for 99 cents. It's really inconsistent. So even if you find patterns and you feel like you're learning something, it's hard to read whether that card is actually going to do well or not. And related to that, another thing I've kind of learned is generally the evening submissions, the evening streams tend to do better. Now, when you submit your cards to this COMC live auctions, there's a few different options, and usually each of them have different prices, and usually it's a little bit more expensive to submit cards to the evening auctions. But generally, those have done better than daytime auctions, but it's not always the case. Usually Friday evening has done the best, but it's not always the case. There's been a few Friday evenings where for whatever reason, they just did really terrible. So it's not consistent, but generally evening streams tend to do better. I've also noticed that the big name Hall of Famers cards, or current high hyped up prospects, especially kind of shiny cards and highly graded cards, PSA 10s especially, tend to do better. But again, it's not consistent. Vintage is a tough one. Vintage is weird. Sometimes vintage pops off and suddenly you have 99-cent cards selling for $12, and other times nobody's bidding on them at all, even if it's like 50s or 60s. I'm not really sure. There's no consistency in that. Another thing I've learned is SSP inserts that are not numbered really don't submit those, because a lot of people who are in that space don't realize the rarity of some of the SSPs if they're not numbered. Some of them might be more well-known. I don't know, like a Kaboom or something is more well-known. But my sense is a lot of the bidders are pretty uninformed about the realities of the sports card market. And if they don't happen to know this is a really rare card, or if the auctioneer doesn't happen to know and doesn't happen to say that, then these kinds of cards would really fall through the cracks. All right, now with all this in mind, let's look at the final numbers. After all of the fees are taken out, originally there was $7,003.31 before fees. Now the fees are very significant. The submission fee for each card is anywhere from $1 to $2. I think in the very first submission it was 75 cents, but after that it's always been mostly $1.25, $1.50, $1.75, $2. I think $1.50 and $2 are the most common ones now. I don't have a way of going back and just seeing how much the submission fee was for each individual card, because each stream has a different price, but I'm just averaging it out and saying it was $1.75 per card, because I think most of them are either $1.50 or $2. So I'm just going to put it as $1.75 per card. So for all of these cards, I really spent about $2,000 just simply submitting them into the live auction. That's on top of, I've already submitted the 50 cents per card to put them into COMC platform in the first place, which would be another $600 that I had spent on these 2 originally. So, that submission fee is getting really, really high. So now I'm down to about $5,000 from the original $7,000. Now, for these cards, my original purchase price was about $4,600. And that I did calculate in the submission fee already into that $4,600. So the $4,600 is how much I paid for those cards and how much it cost me to ship them to COMC to get them into my account, meaning my total profit for 1,142 cards was $400. And that $400 basically covers the cost approximately of the cards that I submitted that didn't end up selling at all, bringing my grand total to right around $0.00-ish. Yeah, really, $0. So I don't know, maybe I've made a couple of bucks, maybe I've lost a couple of bucks, but it's pretty close. So essentially I've sold 1,142 cards for the same price that I had bought them for originally. But that being said, as I mentioned in the first part of the video, the one really good thing about that is even on these cards that I had lost money from my original purchase price, a lot of these cards were cards I was just kind of trying to offload. I was just trying to liquidate them, basically turn them into cash. They had been sitting stuck in my account for a long time and they hadn't sold. Maybe other cards of the similar type of card had gotten too low and this was just a better way to get rid of it. So I did turn some of my stale inventory into money, which I'd rather have money than stale inventory. The fact that it all evened out is still kind of to my advantage because of that. And the fact that, some of those cards, their values just in general have come down a lot. If they were cards that I submitted a year ago or a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, their values have come down a lot. So the fact that I was able to just get rid of them, turn it back into money again is a positive thing. And there are still a lot of cards that I'm making good profit on, and I've been learning through this whole process, which is really key. So the fact that I've been able to do this for 9 weeks and break even and have this learning, I feel I'm making a lot less submissions now. I'm still submitting. Every Friday at 9 a.m. the submissions open on COMC, and I'm still submitting, but I'm slowing down. I'm not experimenting with various things as much. I'm like, okay, this tends to work. I'm sticking with this. These are the cards I'm going to aim for and I'm going to send, and I'm doing less than I was before. So that's essentially my strategy moving forward, is I'm just being really picky on what I submit, and I'm not using this as a space anymore to offload stale inventory. And I wouldn't recommend you do that either, to be honest. In the very beginning stages of this, I think it was a good spot to offload stale inventory, but now I don't think it's that anymore. I think there's too many live streams happening. There's too many cards that don't get bids on or that end up going for 99 cents. That's spending $1.50 or $2 per card to try to offload something that sells for 99 cents. You're losing a bunch of money. It would have been better to donate it to charity or just sell it for 5 cents or something than to have done this. So I don't necessarily recommend this as a way to offload stale inventory anymore. If they do have deals in the future, like a 75-cent submission day or something like that, then maybe it would be worth it to offload stale inventory. But in general, I don't think this is the way to do that. Now, looking forward, I do think that my next 2 or 3 months, if I look at this and how it's going again with the live streams for the next couple of months, I do think it will look different because I have been learning a lot. I've been slowing down on how much I'm submitting and making better choices. So I will update as I continue to go on. And in the future, it will be a little bit easier to calculate these numbers because I won't have also been doing the COMC regular auctions, which I never do except for the periods of time when they have what's called their no minimum bid auction fee event, which happens to be going on in December and January, right around the same time as me starting on this as well. So I'm going to make my next video about that one. My experience with that is very different this time around than it was 2 years ago when they had this last time. So I will be making that video next. So be on the lookout for that. For now, that's it for this video. If you're asking my advice on whether you should get into the game of selling on COMC's live auctions, I really don't know what to say. It's extremely hit or miss. I don't necessarily like hit or miss risky spaces in the sports card world. I like things that are a little bit more reliable. This is not reliable at all, but it's also a space where there are opportunities that do exist. You're just going to make losses along the way too. I don't know if I recommend it. I think it's a worthwhile space to experience and to see what you think about it. I wouldn't just start off submitting a couple hundred cards to see how it works. I would submit a few. Wake up set your alarm to get in there at 9 a.m. Pacific time to submit a few cards, see what happens with them. If you like the process, if you like the experience, maybe you can try a few more, but I don't necessarily think this is going to be for everyone. If you're willing to commit to some learning, there are some opportunities that exist within the space. The submission costs are getting kind of high and they seem to have been raising from the time it started. So I'm slowing down on how much I'm submitting myself, but it's still an interesting thing. I'm glad COMC has this. It's cool that they have various options, various ways to sell cards. It is helping me pick up the pace of selling when they have these different types of things, different types of options. I have different ways to selling. I don't have to just rely on the buy it now option, which is nice. So anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you in the next one. Peace.